So the Minding Your Business podcast, episode number 87, is brought to you by the Binge Podcast Network. The Binge Podcast Network, www.onabinge.com, started by myself, my great business partner and friend Dominic Lawson of Owls LLC, and he's the host of the Startup Life podcast. And we've got a whole myriad of podcasts, all the way from Nothing But Buckets, Let's Be Real, Quotally, the Racially Motivated podcast. We're looking to add podcasts. We got Skills and Heels coming soon with Sis Shay Brown. And of course, we've got this particular podcast. And so we're excited about the entire lineup that we've got coming at the Binge. So if you're an existing podcaster, you're a new podcaster, you need to reach out to us. That is onabinge.com. Of course, we're brought to you by Brooks Brothers Consulting. Brooks Brothers Consulting was started by my brother Philip and I, June 2013. Sales, service, operations, and employee engagement is the name of that particular game. We work with business owners, whether you're a startup or you've been in business, as well as community banks, and we help you level up those four areas. So if you're interested in having that as part of your team, brooksbrothersconsulting.com is the move you need to make, brooksbrothersconsulting.com. We've reached episode number 87, and today's subject is going to be one that's going to be very interesting and very relevant to what's going on today, because many of you, as I'm recording this podcast, are watching day 2 of the men's NCAA tournament. We've got people on Spreaker.com. We've got people on Facebook Live that are joining in. So I guess they probably got the TV up on one side and then they got me up on the other. So I appreciate that. But let's go ahead and do this.
What we do here is go back.
All right, so thank you so much and allowing the intro to kind of come in. I'm your host, Champ Ron. I'm the ultimate wingman to your success. This is the Minding Your Business podcast, episode number 87, coming to you on Friday, March the 22nd of 2019, live and direct from Memphis, Tennessee, which is on the great planet Earth, or what maybe used to be the great planet Earth. I don't know. It depends on who you ask. Shout out to everybody on Facebook Live, on Spreaker.com, who are also live. And so today's topic is going to be the business of March Madness. And so there's a lot that goes on with March Madness beyond just watching the games on the different networks, whether that's CBS or whether that's Turner or wherever that you watch the tournament. Now, hell, they stream it so much now. I think part of the contract that I'll talk about here in a minute includes a lot of the streaming that goes on with the NCAA tournament. And so we're going to run down the business behind it. I'm going to give you some updated information on athletic scholarships that I think you're going to find very interesting, and compare that to if athletes did receive compensation, and there's arguments on both sides. We're going to talk about some of the coaches and what they make, and kind of who benefits from the NCAA tournament and the money that flows. And we're going to talk about some of the productivity that employers complain about for this time of the year, where there's a lot of office pools and people filling out brackets and all this type of thing that's going on. And then, like I say, we're in day 2, so a lot of people, even right now as I'm speaking, are watching games and filling out brackets and complaining about brackets and all this type of thing. And then in Ron's rundown, in that segment a little later on, I'm going to get into, from my perspective, 5 kind of distinct reasons as to why you're not converting prospects to paying customers. A lot of people start their business, they get excited about getting an EIN number, and they get excited about registering their business with the state, and they get excited about posting their logo on Facebook and across groups and doing all these different things. They get excited about paying for their website. But at the end of the day, they don't ever generate anything. And that goes year in and year out sometimes, or month in and month out. And they get discouraged, and then they jump out of that business and they go jump into another one. And so there's reasons why you're not necessarily generating the type of sales volume that you want in your business. And so I'm going to give 5 reasons in the segment as to why that is, so that you can be better at that going forward. So that's kind of the rundown there for today's podcast. Nia Hughes, thank you for joining here on Facebook Live. And shout out to everybody on Facebook Live and Spreaker.com. So let's get started. So the business of March Madness. The recent deal between the NCAA and CBS and Turner was $1 billion a year. It was actually just recently renewed, so it goes to 2032. So that deal goes through the year 2032 between those entities. Like I said, the NCAA, Turner, and CBS. That deal is essentially $1 billion a year. So if you think this is 2019, I think the original deal was through 2014. They extended it again to 2032. $1 billion a year until 2032. So if you do that math, that is about 13 years from now. All right. So 13 years from now, $1 billion a year for 13 years. Now, I know anybody that's listening to this podcast, or you're live or whatever, you love to be able to get your hands on $1 billion a year for 13 years. Okay? So that's the deal. If a team, so there's 68 teams that make the NCAA tournament, the men's basketball tournament. That's kind of started earlier this week, actually, but officially yesterday. All right, if your team, so you're the university of whatever, pick a university, your favorite school, your alma mater, whatever it is. Your team, if they make the NCAA tournament, will earn $1.67 million. Now that goes to the conference. So like if, for example, you're the University of Memphis, you're in the AAC, the American Athletic Conference, you generate for your conference $1.6 million that's paid over 6 years. And that goes to the conference. So if you make the tournament this year in 2019, you're generating revenue for your school and your conference for the next 6 years. All right. Notice I didn't say anything about coaches or players or anything. The team generates that for the school and for the conference. Now, if your conference has, 13, 14 teams in it, and you have 4, 5, 6 teams make the tournament every year, particularly the major Division I teams, that's nice, buddy. I don't care how you slice it up. That's nice, buddy. L back, what's up, brother? How you doing? Thanks for joining in. So that's nice, buddy. So the just the size, over a global kind of standpoint, the NCAA generates a hell of a lot of money when it comes to mostly just from the TV deal. I haven't even gotten to advertising. I haven't gotten into apparel. I haven't gotten into any other vendor agreements, because there's a slew of, and I could probably talk the rest of the day if I pulled information for y'all on all the people that eat off the NCAA tournament, the cities that host games, those venues. So, for example, even here in Memphis, when FedEx Forum has hosted rounds of the NCAA tournament all the way up to, say, the Sweet 16, and then you got all the way up to the national championship game. And keep in mind, the last several years, the men's NCAA national championship game has not been played in a basketball arena. It's been played in football arenas. Why? Because most basketball arenas hold 15 to 20, maybe 25,000 people, whereas most football arenas hold upwards to 100,000 people as far as seated patrons or seated fans. So I wanted to give you kind of the size of the overall pie, okay, when it comes to the NCAA tournament. Your employer, if you're a W-2 employee and you work, there is a group that studies the NCAA tournament every year from a statistical standpoint. Let me share with you the statistics from last year around the NCAA tournament as it relates to workers and employees. And those that own small business, you may fall into this realm as well. Last year, 13.3 billion with a B, like Cardi B, with a B, $13.3 billion in lost productivity last year during the NCAA tournament. Why? Because people spend, there are about 75 million workers in this country that spend about 6 hours of work time filling out brackets, talking about the NCAA tournament, who's going to win, who's going to lose, blah, 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 right? And so, watching it online, because now, like I mentioned earlier, you can stream all this, right? So $13.3 billion in lost productivity for workers during the month of March for March Madness, the men's NCAA tournament. So I want you to keep all this in mind as we're going down, because I'm going to start to drill this down to a micro level for us. 6 hours per worker with 75 million workers. So that's a good bit of lost productivity from an employer's end. Now, I know that's not all the way across. There's a lot of, employers that either have moratoriums on participating in the NCAA tournament. Some have tried to combat it by being open, not making it a black market, but the employer actually allows and sponsors a participation of brackets using ESPN and CBS and all those platforms that do the bracket challenges and all that sort of thing. All of that's an effort sometimes by the employer to just say, hey, instead of letting it be on the black market and having everybody, get away from productivity and not be working because they're worried about the tournament, we'll just get involved ourselves. That way we can kind of control how much time a worker is spending in their office, in their cubicle, whatever, with the NCAA tournament and not necessarily working. All right. So that's some of the productivity around what's lost from employers. I mentioned streaming earlier. So this year in 2019 is the first time that the NCAA is now streaming all 68 of kind of the first round matchups. So the kind of the first weekend of the NCAA tournament, which, by the way, many people consider as the best sporting event that the United States has, or maybe even in the world. That's probably debatable compared to the Super Bowl, some other things, but most people feel the first weekend of the NCAA tournament is the best we have in sports, all right? So this year, 2019, the NCAA is streaming it on 17 different platforms, all right? Last year, there were 97 million viewers in 2018. So 97 million viewers of just the first weekend. Okay? That's not even counting the whole month, and the national championship games usually in early April now. Usually the first Monday in April, right? 97 million. And that was actually down a little bit. 97 million. So 97 million. So when I spoke earlier, I didn't even bring to the table for you all the numbers on advertising because it's absurd. And that's the reason that the NCAA can do a $1 billion a year contract with the TV networks, with all this streaming and all that kind of thing. It's because the money's just flowing. Now, let's start to drill down, because it'll get interesting here for you as I start to share with you all how the money drills down from the $1 billion and all the advertising and everything that TV networks, the NCAA is doing. And this is with your children. So most of these kids, and we're just talking about basketball. We're not talking about any of the other sports, certainly not yet. But just for this month in March Madness, you're talking about most kids anywhere from 17 to 23 years old. 23 being on the oldest, someone that's been redshirted. 17 being a kid who had an early birthday, who got in college early and is more than likely a freshman. All right. Let's drill down to the coaches. All right. So the NCAA men's basketball coaches, Division I, I just want to share with you all, because you just might be curious as to the salary. Now, again, as a man, we got to shout out Elliot. As a man, I don't count dudes' pockets. I don't count ladies' pockets. I don't count nobody's pockets but my own. All right? College basketball coaches' salaries are public, so I'm going to share them with you publicly. All right? Would y'all be interested to know the top 10 salaries of college men's basketball coaches Division I for this year? Yeah, I thought you would, so I brought it. All right, number 10. Rick Barnes with the University of Tennessee this year earned $3.3 million as a base salary. Rick Barnes. Coach Penny Hardaway, the University of Memphis, his new friend. So Coach Rick Barnes, who's I think Tennessee's number 2 seed in one of the areas, one of the geographic areas of the tournament, $3.3 million. John Beilein at Michigan, $3.8 million. Michigan, I think, is a number 3 seed somewhere? Can't remember. Number 8, Jay Wright. Jay Wright, Villanova, has won a couple national championships recently in the last few years. $3.9 million per year. All right, 3.9. Now, I want y'all, if you're writing this down, take notes, go research it. You can find it everywhere. All right. Number 7, Roy Williams, University of North Carolina, number 1 seed in the tournament this year. One of the number 1 seeds, $3.9 million per year this year. That's just base salary, y'all. Number 6, Chris Mack, Louisville, who lost yesterday, by the way. He lost. Rick Pitino's son, I think it was Minnesota, beat them yesterday, close game. Chris Mack, $4 million a year. He's number 6 in the country in terms of highest salary among head basketball coaches. Number 5, Bill Self, who in 2008 beat the University of Memphis at Kansas. Bill Self, number 5, $4.1 million a year, base salary. Not hating at all. Make the money. If that's what you want, make the money. Number 4, Tony Bennett at Virginia. Virginia was the first number 1 seed to lose to a 16 seed in NCAA Tournament history last year. Tony Bennett, $4.2 million a year. Okay? He's number 4 on the list. Number 3. Now we're going to start climbing up a little bit after 3 when you get to number 2 and number 1. People in Memphis are going to love number 1, by the way. But number 3, Tom Izzo at Michigan State. Tom Izzo at Michigan State this year earned $4.2 million for this year as a base salary. Okay? $4.2 million. Number 2, number 1 seed, Mr. Zion Williamson's coach himself, Mike Krzyzewski at Duke University, $7 million a year. Just base salary. Not talking about anything else he's involved in that he might get. Just base salary, MYB, $7 million this year. And number 1, everybody in Memphis's favorite, the favorite prodigal son, John Calipari at the University of Kentucky. $9.3 million for this year. Let me add a caveat to Coach Calipari. If the University of Kentucky wanted to buy him out this year, let's just say Kentucky gets drugged in one of the rounds, they get their asses handed to them, and Kentucky fans decide to turn on Cal, the University of Kentucky has to pay John Calipari in a buyout $25 million. Yes, $25 million with an M. Just to send him away. Just to say good riddance, Cal. $25 million a year. Some people get laid off from work, and I'll leave that alone. But Coach Calipari at the University of Kentucky, $9.3 million a year, and he has a $25 million buyout. So if they say to hell with you, Coach Calipari, they got to pay him $25 million. Now, you imagine having a job, a business, whatever it is, where when the folk want to get rid of you, they got to pay you $25 million. Hell, bye. They got to pay you $25 million. I don't have to deal with crazy folks in Lexington, Kentucky about they Wildcats. Give me my $25 million. I'm out. Love y'all. Promise you I do. $25 million buyout. All right. So I'm drilling down from a macro level how the dollars and cents are flowing. All right. Yeah, Charlie says sheesh. Hell, we said a lot more than that. Devin says I'm in the wrong business. I need to start farming players too. Yeah, I mean that's what it's about. Jet says, "Whoop my ass and give me my cash." Listen, throw the deuces up, give me my $25 million, and I'm out. But that's John Calipari. So that's the top 10 salaries for coaches. Again, not in anybody's pocket. Get what you can get. Hey, the demand and the market for something is what someone's willing to pay. Because hey, $25 million is $25 million. What are you gonna say? You know what I mean? As long as your integrity's still in, and there's some obvious thing, or hopefully there's some obvious pieces that you're not doing things unscrupulous or compromising your integrity to get any kind of money. I don't care how much it is. Now, some people, everybody has a price, I guess, and some people it is what it is. But anyway, that's some of the trickle down effect when you start talking about what goes on here as it relates to men's basketball. I'm not even getting to every little piece of this. So let me share with you this is from 2017. Let's get to the players, because what do you have with the NCAA tournament without the players? If the players didn't show up to play, you don't have a damn thing, right? You have no product without the players. Coaches can go out there, they can do whatever in their nice suits and stuff. Fans can show up, they can buy tickets, but what is all this designed to do? It's to watch 17 to 23-year-olds play basketball. And over a month's time, 4.5 weeks, see who's the best. When you've got one shot to do it. It's a one shot, one kill, what the deal? In the NCAA tournament. Not like the NBA where you've got best of 7, and typically when you stretch something out to 7 games, the best team typically tends to win. NCAA tournament, like I told you, last year, for the first time, Virginia lost in the first round to a 16 seed. It never happened. So anything can happen on any given day when you talk about this. But we get to the players. I shared with you what the coaches made, right? Let's get to the players. Division I men's scholarships. Athletic scholarship. I'm not even breaking down, different sports and things like that. But would you be curious to know what the average scholarship is? Or let me give you this. I'll start with this. What the total scholarship is. So the total scholarship, Division I, for men in 2017 was $80,466. That's the average value, the total value of an athletic scholarship. $80,466 for men, $67,287 for women. I just shared with you a little bit ago what the coaches made. Now, the number 10 coach, Rick Barnes, $3.3 million a year. Okay. Total scholarship value, athletic scholarship value for Division I, $80,466. For Division II, if you're just curious about that, some of you play Division II ball and that sort of thing. $60,419 is the value, or kind of the total scholarship for men. For women, $41,519. Okay, so if you combine those two, let's just say you combining men's and women's, the total scholarship from 2017, if you're combining Division 1 and Division 2. Division 1 and 2 for men combined, $140,885. That's combined. Because Division 3 doesn't really do athletic scholarships per se. They'll do a lot of different things to kind of help you get in, but most of it is Division 1 and 2. Division 1 and 2 for women combined, $108,806. Okay? The average scholarship for a Division 1 men's athletics, average scholarship, okay? I'm putting my finger up for those that can see me live because I want you to put the pin right here. $16,937. That's the average athletic scholarship for a Division 1 male in the United States of America, 2017. And this is all coming from scholarshipstats.com, okay? Which is aligned tied with the NCAA. $16,937 is the average scholarship. Josh Midget, what up? Deliberation Sports Podcast. Make sure y'all check that out. For women, the average athletic scholarship, $17,654. So it's somewhat neck and neck with men. Women is probably slightly higher because you've got a little bit, there's a different kind of demand on the women's side. $17,654 for women. Average athletic scholarship, Division 1. Okay? And Division 2 for men and women. For men, $6,211 is the average scholarship. For women, $7,558. Now, I've gone from talking about billions from the NCAA, CBS, Turner. Now I'm talking about the average scholarship being, and I'm talking just basketball. I'm talking athletics, college athletics between Division, especially Division 1. The average men, $16,937. The average woman, $17,654. Scholarships all around, just around the country in 2017. There were scholarships that were issued to nearly $4 billion. That's scholarships around the country, all the way around, athletic scholarships. Okay? So I want y'all to put that pin in there because I'm going to show you how the numbers are making sense, but for who? And I think you already kind of know where I'm going. All right? Some of the schools that had the highest average athletic scholarships in 2017, Tulane, University of Miami, Vanderbilt, Southern Methodist, which is SMU, Northwestern, Wake Forest, Rice University, some of those private colleges. All right? So you want to know by sport. I think that's probably the next thing you want to know. So you're saying, Champ Ron, you told me what it is just overall by athletics. So let me just show you basketball. So there are 351 Division 1 NCAA basketball teams currently. 351. The average scholarship, the average basketball scholarship, just basketball, okay? The average is $38,246. That's the average scholarship to a player. $38,246. I didn't bring the employment numbers for even just Memphis. If we were just, Yeah, I'm here in Memphis, so if I just shared Memphis, what the average salary is in Memphis. If someone on Facebook Live or on Spreaker has that and y'all want to post that, please do. If you know the average salary here in Shelby County in Memphis. But the average scholarship for a basketball player is $38,246 for them to go to school. And the coach is earning millions. And the NCAA is earning billions. And CBS is earning billions. And Turner is earning billions. Then it just leaves the question, what's going on? And this is an age-old argument. This is an argument, hell, as old as I am. And I'm 38. And it goes back longer before then about paying players and all that. And we could talk all day long and argue back and forth and whatnot. But here's the deal. When you look at what goes on in this country and for you to be able to even just survive, and many of y'all know that, a salary of, say, $38,246 after you tax it, after, it's one thing if you're single, but then if you got other people that have to eat off of that, it's not a lot of money. No, it's not a lot of money. So there's an argument that's made, well, the student athlete, particularly in basketball, the student athlete has a scholarship. That's their payment. That's their payment, Ron. You get these old guys, from 19 whatever. That's their payment, Ron. Scholarship. They get a scholarship. They get to go to school for free. That's their argument, right? You heard them. What are they complaining about? They get to go to school for free. They get to be popular. Have a lot of Instagram followers. What's the problem? That's the argument, right? $38,246 for basketball. And you don't even want me to get into, you got it all the way down, like for men, like wrestling. The average wrestling scholarship is $12,351. That's the average. Now, I know there's other factors that go into this, but, hell, you can't even get through school with that, hardly. Some schools cost more than that a year, right? More than $12,000. That's Division I for wrestling. But let's just stick to basketball since we got NCAA Tournament going on. So $38,246 is the average basketball scholarship. So you connect the dots, MYB. All right? Connect the dots. So where do the dollars make sense? They make sense for everybody above the player. Who's the most important person in the whole process? Is the players. The players don't play, nothing else goes. Sponsorships go. None of that money flows without the players. And you've had lawsuits. You've had guys who have come out that have sued the NCAA and all this sort of thing. And you've had guys speak out against it because there's been high profile instances of, if you go back even listen to the Fab Five and you listen to a number of different former players who have come up and said, the school and the NCAA is making all this money off me and my image. And meanwhile, I'm struggling to get, the 10 taco set at Taco Bell. And a lot of you have children that are playing athletics currently. You've had children that have played. You're playing now. You've played in the past. And so, and all kinds of different sports. And so you understand a lot of what I'm saying here, just from the business standpoint. $38,246 is the average. The high, by the way, was $53,075. That was the high as far as the average scholarship. Okay? So you're not talking about big dollars here for these guys. Yes, there's corruption in it, of course. The NCAA, good grief. You got, the mob, and you got the United States government, and then, and somewhere up there is the NCAA. Yeah. But yeah, you get the argument from these guys all the time. These old, fossils that come in that don't think, athletes should be paid, that they should remain amateurs. And their argument has validity in some areas in terms of what they say is, well, if you start paying, then who's to determine who gets what? And again, the logistics of it is what I always revert back to. So, it's one thing, do you want to do it? The other thing is, then how do you do it? And how do you do that such that not just the top players or the top institutions benefit? You know what I mean? Because if you're going to pay players, you got to play, what is it, 300? You said there's 351 schools, right? Only 68 of them are in the NCAA tournament. So what about number 351? Will they get, will the player on school number 351 get the same amount of money as Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett at Duke? Or the kid that they're raving about now at Murray State? Something to think about, NYB. So I want you to, capture these numbers and go back, do your own math, do your own research, and come up with your own conclusion as to what do you think about the NCAA and with March Madness. But here's the deal. The players make it. They make it. So where is the dollars making sense for them? $38,246 the average scholarship. A lot of y'all make more than that a year in your jobs or within your business. Some for years. Could you live off $38,246 today? Maybe you could, maybe not. Maybe you are. But are you also generating billions with a B, with a big old Cardi B, for the NCAA and for your university? Maybe you are. I don't know. But it's something for you to keep in mind. Okay? So my end take on that is this, is that there's a lot of money that flows from the NCAA tournament that you should be aware of as you're watching and enjoying the games and enjoying the kids play and following your favorite university or who you have in your bracket to win. But don't forget about the exploitation that goes on when you start talking about how the dollars flow from the macro level all the way down micro and who's benefiting from that. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, let's move on from that because I want to get into Ron's rundown. All right, so today on Ron's rundown, I've got 5 areas from my perspective as to why you're not making sales in your business. All right, so we just talked about the NCAA and all the money that they're making and whatnot. So you may be sitting there and you may be struggling in your business. Now, you may be doing extremely well and you can always look to do better. But if you're struggling with your business, you're on Facebook and Instagram, and because I know some of y'all don't get on LinkedIn, you don't want your boss to see you on LinkedIn. You haven't found a way to filter that out yet. So you're on Facebook and Instagram, and you're pushing your business. You're posting flyers. You're begging people to share it. You're in every group all day, every day, posting. Liking, sharing, commenting. You registered. You got a business license. You registered with the state. So you got your little state document that you got in your email inbox. So you've got your business set up. EIN number and all. And you're ready to go conquer the world. But you're not converting, or you're having trouble converting people into sales. So either you have a hard time getting people on the front end just to begin with, or you've got this big personal network, right? Which a lot of people, some of the challenge we have here in Memphis is a lot of people get into business after they built this big personal network, and they try to convert personal contacts into business contacts when you're not even known for that. Because you start your business at 35, you've been running in the club and running in our neighborhoods, so everybody knows you for that. So now you're a business owner, you're 36, and you're trying to reinvent yourself, which I applaud and support. But it's hard for that to happen overnight unless you address these 5 things. All right? And so with what I do, and I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast with Brooks Brothers Consulting. So this is part of what we do and help you level up. And so we'd love to be able to do that for you and your business. So again, you need to get with us at brooksbrothersconsulting.com. But number 1, so these are the 5 likeliest reasons that you are not seeing your success in sales when it comes to your business. All right. Number 1 is that you don't have a sales process. All right. So a sales process is this, and you've heard this taught, some of you that have worked in corporate and you understand the sales funnel, right? So you have to add people into your funnel. You have to work them through your process and get them out at the end as buying customers, right? All right. So a successful sales process begins with, first you have to identify who your prospects are, who you're doing business with to begin with. So coming out of your why you're in business, which is what's going to drive you when tough times come, or it's going to be the reason that you end the business or liquidate the business. But you have to identify who your key prospects are, and you have to qualify your leads. And setting up, we'll talk some about training and that sort of thing, but you have to develop a culture within your business. So whether you're the only salesperson and you're a solopreneur, which a lot of you are, and that's part of the challenge in this country is we've got more businesses, but they're not hiring people. So they're not generating the kind of revenue that help communities. And so communities that have a ton of businesses, but those businesses aren't generating a ton of revenue, or they're more self-employment type businesses. They're not necessarily full-fledged businesses. They're people who are self-employed. Then that's too micro of a level for it to really help communities on any kind of grandiose scale. But the first thing you have to do is sit down and have people like us or whoever that's your trusted advisor, and you need to develop a sales process of how you're going to identify your prospects. Okay? So that's number 1. Number 2, along with that, this actually could be 1A, but number 2 is you've got to target the right customers. And please, in 2019, please stop the foolishness. I know nobody in MYB does this, but please stop the foolishness of, I'm targeting everybody, everybody's my customer. No, they're not. I don't care if you're selling toilet tissue. Yes, everybody should be wiping their ass. Make sure you're wiping your ass now. All right? Facebook Live, Spreaker, make sure y'all doing that. But even if you're looking to sell, you're going to compete against Charmin and you're going to have your own toilet tissue. Everybody is still not going to be your target customer. They're still a target customer depending on your product. Okay? So you have to target the right people. Some of what you see even on social media is people want to take this mass machine gun approach. I'm just going to fire at anything that moves and hope I hit something that, and that's too costly and too time consuming. It's not efficient. So for your efficiency, you got to target the right people, which means you got to spend time in your business. And again, we can help with that. There's many others that can help with this. But you've got to identify and target the right people. So you take your product or your service, and your question is what problem does it solve for what person? Is it a reoccurring problem? Is it a one-time problem that people have that you kind of, you solve and then you never really have that problem again? But most problems are reoccurring. Most problems, aren't solved in a one-hit quitter. They're, you have the problem and the problem can resurface based on whatever variables or whatever factors. Okay? So you've got to make sure that your product or service solves a problem. All right. Are the people within that target able to make a buying decision? Meaning that, do they have the income, whether it's disposable or whatnot, and are they in the position to make a decision? When you're doing particularly a lot of B2B type work like I do, it is critical that you get to a decision maker. And even with consumers, if you're dealing with families, you're dealing with households, who's making the ultimate decision? Is it the husband? Is it the wife? Is it them both? Is it the kids? Is it the CEO? Is it the office manager? And don't just assume that, because naturally human beings want to go all the way to the top. Don't assume that the CEO is the one making that decision. He or she may support it, but he or she may not always be your target, even within the company. It may be the office manager. It may be the secretary, the office admin, administrator. It may be the VP, or maybe the assistant vice president, maybe the sales officer, whoever it is. Right? But you've got to identify that. And if you're working with consumers, is your target person able to make a buying decision? Maybe do they have the wherewithal and the capacity? Because if they don't have that, they can get excited and all that. But if they don't have those things, you're not targeting the right people, or your business or your industry either may be dated or it may not be viable. So that's part of how you do that, how you vet out your industry. But don't forget that point, MYB, is that your prospect has to be able to make a buying decision, a purchasing decision. Okay? So don't just focus in on how good your product is and all that type of thing and all the benefits. So don't focus just on that. All right? What you want to focus in on is, what problem does it solve? Right? So Brooks Brothers Consulting solves a problem for business owners and for banks. That problem is what I'm talking about right now, how to generate sales and create a sales culture that includes your customer service. So how do I do that without being pushy and having that used car salesman approach? How do I engage my frontline people to do those two things, service and sales, with the right operations and compliance, which is hard. How do you get salespeople to care about? When I was a salesperson, I don't give a damn about operating. You know what I mean? I always wanted to keep those kind of people around me. I was a cowboy, right? I'm out looking for things. I'm a hunter. Let the pencil pushers, handle the operations and the compliance. But it's very important and critical to your organization. And I learned that in some cases the hard way, of how critical the operations piece is. And then employee engagement. There's studies that come out with Gallup and that sort of thing, that employee engagement is down. And so those are things that result in attrition, turnover, and that sort of thing. People not really seeing value in the job or, within your business. And so those are 4 areas where Brooks Brothers Consulting comes in and helps you level those up, with recognizing and using our resources and things like that, and our experience to help you level that up. And that helps you level up those 4 areas, which are 4 areas that are all critical to any business: is how you're selling, how you're servicing your target customer, how your operations and compliance, how you're adhering to that and ensuring that you're not just bringing things in the front door that are leaving out the back. And then the people that are doing the work, how engaged are they, and do they see opportunity to convert that job into a career? And then maybe from a career to entrepreneurship. And the best companies do those things. And so we help do that. So that's where we add value. Your product or service has to add value in that sort of sense, because it's got to solve a real problem. Okay? So that's number 2. Number 3 that goes along with that is, whether it's for yourself or for your employees in your business, you got to have training. You'll be surprised that some of these companies that are billion-dollar revenue companies that have really poor to no kind of training and rearing. And I talked about just a second ago about the Gallup data that's, suggests that most people, I think it was like 7 out of 10 workers in this country, don't have any kind of career development process or training, right? My opinion, all right, this is just my opinion. Salespeople are not born. Nobody comes out of their mama's womb. They don't walk out, or however some of y'all come out, hatch, or however some of y'all folks. Some folks act like they hatch, but however you come out of your mom's thing, and you don't come out as no great salesperson. That's just my opinion. People are developed. They're made. Right? From their environment. They're shaped by their environment. They're shaped by what they experience. They're shaped by what they consume, what they read, what they hear. Right? So training and development for your sales team is the same way. You may have people who have the gift of gab and are good with people, but that doesn't make them good salespeople. Okay? Your people, including yourself, have to have a good knowledge, working knowledge of your product or service. You'll be surprised. You'll have these companies that, people, and this affects sales and service and a lot of other things, is the people at the business don't know nothing about what they selling. Have y'all experienced that? You ever been in the business and you got even just a basic question, don't nobody know, everybody looking at each other? That happens in small business, that happens in big business. You have to have kind of the in-depth knowledge, which means as a business owner, you got to be spending time. And if you're the first employee, even if you're a solopreneur, you got to make sure you understand your product or service. And can you explain it like I just explained Brooks Brothers Consulting? Can you do that in 2 minutes, 60 seconds, 30 seconds, 15 seconds? Because your target customer is not going to give you 45 minutes for you to chop through everything that you do and how you do it and what's the value to them. Nobody gives you that kind of time. Hell, when y'all watching YouTube videos, if the video longer than 2-3 minutes, some of y'all, right? Y'all moving on. So I say that to, for this is that you've got to make sure that your team has the knowledge that and feels comfortable to be able to position your product or service, not to be pushy, not to be passive, but to be solid and firm with the right target in terms of a customer or prospect, to be able to share information on the product or service, answer questions, and route the customer through your sales process. They won't know that unless you train them. Along with training is number 4, which is they've got to have the tools. So it's one thing to have the knowledge of the product or service. The other thing is you got to have the tools. This is another area where small businesses especially, but big businesses too, they don't utilize the type of tools. Of course, nowadays you have the technology, right? So you've got the technology of using CRM, which is customer relationship management tools. You'll find those in apps. You'll find them like Sugar CRM and Salesforce and all those kind of things. But you have to have some kind of pipeline tool, because that sales process that I talked about, that sort of funnel, you have to have a way to visualize that and report off of it. And so some people are like, I hate statistics. I hate numbers. What numbers do you hate? They tell the story. They don't speak to the heart of the person, of people. So you can't rely solely on stats and numbers and things like that. But they tell a trend. They tell a story that you want told, so that so you can adjust that story if you need to, or you can realize what's going on. You won't know what's going on without the numbers. Okay? And then you won't know what's going on without visualizing activity and behavior. So those two things got to work in conjunction. You can't just watch the behaviors without the numbers, and you can't just have the numbers and the stats and the analytics without understanding the behaviors. Okay? But you got to give your team the right tools. So sales management software is critical. I'm actually working on being able to offer it as a product set with Brooks Brothers Consulting, because it's that critical, and we run into it a lot, where Even if it's just yourself, you're a solopreneur. You've got to be able to keep up with, use me for an example. So you got Champ Ron's one of your target customers. You've got to keep, how are you tracking, how am I going through the sales process? From the time you first get introduced to me, you're not going to be able to remember every person that you meet and all that kind of thing. You've got to be able to house that information somewhere other than in your brain or on a sheet of paper in some closet somewhere or in a desk drawer. You've got to be able to keep up with that NYB, because if you don't, your team won't be able to remember, and you won't look as good to your customer if you're always having to go back and rehash things that they've already told you. So you got to be able to capture information, and you've got to be able to see people through that process, that sales kind of funnel process that you've developed, that you've trained on with your team, including yourself. You've got to be able to do that. Okay? If you don't, like I said, that's probably the reason why you don't have sales, is because you're not seeing people through that funnel, and through that funnel, you're not getting to a point where you're asking for the business and then following up right through the process. And even after the customer has agreed to buy and you've executed on the buy piece, or how are you following up at whatever point in the future to ensure that you're cultivating that relationship? A lot of people, and I talked about on social media, they're too transactional. Don't be transactional like that, NYB. Meaning that you're just looking to get these quick sales because you've got people calling. You got bill collector folks calling you, and you want to go to Orlando, and you got all these things you want to do, and so that's motivating your psyche, which then trickles to your behavior. Don't do that. It's a process. Develop your process with you, so that when your business levels up, and even if you go from solopreneur to having employees, you have a process that they can follow. So you don't have to stand over them all the time to make sure that they're doing it, because you have a process, and you're going to know what's going on because you observe what's going on, and you have the numbers. All right. So between those two, between your eyes and your ears and the numbers that the software is tracking, where's the lie? All right. Last one, number 5. And this is a big one too. You've got to establish a timeline with your customer. Understand the psychology of the human being. The human being naturally is a procrastinator, right? The human being, he or she will put off, even if it is in their best interest. They will operate. Look at politics. The human being will operate outside of its own best interest, right? Naturally procrastinator. So what you have to do is you have to define a timeline. You got to create a timeline for your customer of when they're going to buy, because otherwise, unless they, yes, they want an ambulance when they've just been shot, right? Because there's a sense of urgency. But most things that you sell, products or services, people are not going to have a huge sense of urgency because they're not critical or mission critical to day-to-day operation. Even down to food. There's a lot of places you can get food, So I recommend that you establish, to create a sense of urgency for a customer, you got to establish a timeline. So as you're moving them through your sales process, you got to say something along the lines of this. You got to get an understanding of, use me for example. So Champ Ron, how does this sound? When do you see yourself making a decision on this? Are you prepared to make a decision on this today? Let me answer. Don't assume nothing. Are you prepared to make a decision and move forward today? I can answer that a number of different ways, right? So let's just say I answer that to some form of, no, not right now, today. Okay? So you still have to get into so when do you anticipate making a decision on this to resolve whatever issue? Restate the issue. Make sure Champ Ron understands the issue, again, the problem that you're solving, right? Your product or service solves this problem. You've done a great job through your sales process of understanding what that problem is and having Champ Ron state that to you. Not you telling him. He's telling you, because why? The open-ended questions that you're asking him. Okay? Now, you're not asking him questions that he's going to answer just yes, no, uh-huh. No, you're asking him, tell me about this. How does this work? Explain to me. Okay? So now he's got to give an answer. All right? But you got to establish the timeline. Okay? A best practice is, and you see this with big companies, you see this with good small businesses, is they offer discounts, but for a limited time. Don't just discount your service just because you're trying to get sales. Don't do that. You're selling yourself short if you just have these perpetual. If you know it's $100, it's $100. All right. If your cousin don't understand that, if your mama don't understand that, daddy, you've got to get to your right target. And stop being mad don't be mad at those folks for not buying. If they're not your target market, just because y'all have the same last name, or because y'all grew up in the same neighborhood, or y'all went to the same school, or y'all were kissing the same girl under the tree during high school, whatever y'all was doing, that don't mean that they're gonna buy from you. Okay? Just because y'all went to the club together don't mean that they're gonna buy from you, because it doesn't mean that they're your target market, your target customer. But you got to establish a timeline. Yep. You got to establish a timeline. Yeah, there's a lot of methods, man, on sales. You can, Jordan Belfort is definitely a good one. There's all kinds of different ones, man. I just see this with a lot of people. And I appreciate that, Charlie, here on Facebook Live. But you got to establish some kind of timeline. And one way to do that is just offer things for a limited, finite time. Whether it's an attractive discount or, hey, this is only going to be around at this price for this time. And that helps to spark for your target client or your target prospect. It starts to give them the sense of urgency. So you got to establish that within your prospect or within your customer. And then offer something of a referral system. And you see that a lot. So if you refer someone to me, Champ Ron, you get this benefit from that. And I don't have to go into, you guys know MYB what the benefits to that is, right? So timeline. Get them on your timeline. But those are the 5 reasons why you're not generating sales. And you're sitting there, you're busted and disgusted. You're ready to quit the business. You're ready to go do something else. Or you're ready to quit the job. These things work the same way. Think of this if you're working a job right now, even if you're selling yourself, right? You want that promotion, things like that. These 5 things apply. So think about it. Okay? But particularly if you have your business, those 5 areas. Don't be scared. Listen, people are going to talk about you. All right? They're talking about you now. That's none of your business. You can't worry about that. You can't worry about who's talking about you and who's doing this and that. Operate your business. You believe in yourself. You believe in your business. Right? You've got to believe in it. Don't worry about who else does. You believe in it. If it's of integrity, right, and it's of good scrupulousness, believe in it and believe in yourself. Don't worry about who doesn't like it. Hey, tag them. You get it. Some of y'all get antsy about, I don't want to tag them. Tag them. Everybody you dealing with on your social media is grown. If they don't want you tagging them no more, they'll tell you. And then you move on. And then what happens is you move on, and then something happens and they see it big with somebody else and they say, well, why ain't tag me? I get that sometimes. They say, Ron, I ain't know nothing about that. Yeah, because you told me to not tag you. Mother. So you wait until someone who's an influencer for you does it, and then now you want to be part of it because you want to be part of the clique, or what you think is the clique, what you being left out of. Don't be ashamed. This is your business. It solves a problem for people. Target the right people. Don't just tag people that have nothing to do with what you, or they don't have that problem. But people who have the problem that you have a solution for, You owe it to them to let them know. They get mad, they get mad. They gonna talk about you anyway. They're already talking about you. They're in people's inboxes talking about you. They in text messages. They're already talking about you. So what? So what? You're building a business. Everybody gonna love you when you get a job. And that's no knock. I mean, we support that here on NYB, and there's levels to everything. But everybody's gonna love you for that. That's what people know. When you start your business, people gonna talk about you. Because people fear what they don't know, what they don't understand. Or their dreams they didn't go after like that. So that's okay. Everybody's got their place, no matter what. I don't want everybody to be an entrepreneur. I sure the hell don't. How many of y'all borrow money from other entrepreneurs? No, y'all ask W-2 workers, right? When y'all get into a bind. Who comes and shops in your retail stores or your e-commerce store? People working jobs, right? Not another struggling entrepreneur, right? So there's a place for everybody, but those are the reasons why you may not be getting the sales that you're looking for. So you need to make some adjustments. Okay, so listen, thank y'all so much for tuning in here for episode number 87. I hope that you got some great understanding of the NCAA and the business that goes on with that. We could talk a whole rest of the day with that, but I know y'all want to get back to the games. I want to get back and check out some of the games too. I enjoy it just like everybody else, but understand where the dollars make sense and for who, so that you can be informed. And for those of you that have young men, young women that are going to be college athletes maybe in the future, maybe they are now, understand what's going on. And listen, generate the sales. Don't be afraid to go get the business. Only thing people can cuss, they can call you names, they can say all types of different things. At the end of the day, you're generating the business. Don't be ashamed. People supposed to talk about you. They supposed to talk about you. What do you think they, listen, people are supposed to talk about you. You know what I mean? That's none of your business. Keep doing your thing. As long as you're operating with integrity, scrupulousness, the right level of transparency, you're not hurting nobody, you're not scandalizing nobody else, do your thing. You want to tag 50 people that you can help? Tag them. That's what it's about. So I want to see everybody level up. This is Champ Ron, the ultimate wingman to your success. I want to see you be successful and be happy, and however you define that. And I hope that this podcast helps you do that. In the next couple of weeks, we'll have more information, more things coming, more guests. If you'd like to advertise on this particular podcast or on the Binge Podcast Network, make sure you communicate with me, Ron, at thenybpodcast.com. Subscribe, listen, and share this podcast with your friends, family, with your enemies, whoever, folks that's been talking about you. Send them this podcast. All right. I hope that you enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the NCAA Tournament. I hope that your bracket hasn't been busted up yet like mine has. I hope that you enjoy all the great positive things that are coming to you this weekend. It's going to be warmer here in Memphis, hopefully around the country. Shout out to those in the Midwest and Nebraska that have been dealing with the floods and things like that. I hope things are getting better. If I could be a resource to any of you, you know what to do. Get in contact with me. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business like minding your own. I'm Champ Ron, the ultimate wingman to your success. Thank you all so much for tuning in. OnTheBinge.com is where you need to look at for the Binge Podcast Network. Check out all those shows and come back here for the next episode. We got more information coming to you to help you level up and be better in your business or with your organization. Peace.